All right, let's plunge into tonight's deep dive. A judge blocking part of President Trump's executive order on mail-in voting. And it comes after Democratic lawmakers were warning a proposed Postal Service rule could impact the way we carry out our constitutional rights. Under the proposed rule, the Postmaster General said the Post Service wouldn't deliver ballots in states that refuse to give the Trump administration a list of approved voters. So joining me now for more on this is ABC's Peter Haralambous, as well as legal contributor and University of Baltimore law professor Kim Whaley. Thank you both for the time today. And Peter, I want to start with you. Where do things stand right now with this latest federal ruling here?
Yeah, so this is really the first time we've heard a federal judge weigh in on this controversial executive order from earlier this year. The judge here really having some critical timing. It comes just days after the Postal Service proposed a new rule that would require states hand over these lists of approved voters. The judge in this ruling really unequivocal about the legality of that writing here, and I quote, "The Constitution does not grant the president any specific powers over elections." I'll also note that this is the third time in just 1 week that a federal judge has blocked efforts by the president to increase oversight over the elections. And at this point, both of President Trump's executive orders on elections have been blocked by the courts.
Well, and Kim, I'm curious, what did you make of the administration's argument in this case?
I think the judge is quite obviously correct in this regard. She not only found that the voting is under the Constitution determined by states, but also that the Postal Service doesn't have any authority from the United States Congress to engage in checking voting ballots. This is a reach, as was indicated by Donald Trump, that now multiple times, the second executive order, he can't get the SAVE Act through the United States Congress. I think the problem in part with this order, however, is there are criminal penalties for people within the election law apparatus for not complying with what appears to be a clearly unconstitutional order. So this is important for the public to understand. It's okay, people can vote, and there will be business as usual, I expect, between now and November, which again is a good thing for democracy in the system.
Yeah, well, and Peter, as news about this is kind of like, leaked out, I'm curious, how are lawmakers reacting here?
Yeah, especially because the Trump administration is expected to appeal this ruling. They're deeply skeptical of this proposal. They ultimately fear that this is effectively a backdoor for the president to meddle in the election. We saw the Postmaster General on Capitol Hill yesterday trying to defend this. He basically framed this as an effort to increase election security, basically saying these are all common sense measures. But specifically, Democratic senators pointed to that provision of mandating these lists of approved voters. They say that's effectively a poison pill, a line that cannot be crossed, and they vowed to fight this in the courts if the Postal Service actually tries to implement it.
Well, and Kim, lastly here, you heard Peter kind of allude to the fact that this is likely going to be appealed in some capacity. We are 5 months out from midterm elections, so what are you going to be watching for next?
Well, on this particular one, I don't think this is the issue that it'll be front and center in the elections, in part because just the apparatus that needs to be built to create these lists. It looks like there's multiple lists, there's state lists, there's the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration is supposed to be involved in lists, and there's supposed to be a new portal from the Postal Service and new envelopes and barcodes and all that stuff. I don't think this is going to be implemented before November, but it does sow confusion and potentially, as I indicated, some concern because of the criminal penalties in the order. There are other things that I think we all should be paying attention to, including the possibility of law enforcement around election sites. We have gerrymandering issues. The Supreme Court has not been a proponent of voting rights, but every American should, in this moment, adhere to their constitutional right and take steps today to make sure they're registered and have a plan to vote. If you can vote in person, given these shenanigans with the mailing service and the Postal Service, that's probably the safest bet to secure your right to engage in democracy.
Yeah. Kim Whaley, Peter Haralambous.